speaking about Lamar Jackson, Lamar has the most to gain by winning the Super Bowl. Recent Super Bowl champion Jalen Hurts. A lot has been gained from him winning this monumental game. Where do you have him ranked? Where is he right now?
At worst, top 3. I got Mahomes number 1 and it's Hurts number 2. I know it sounds crazy, yo. You have him over Josh, over Lamar, over Burrow. I think it's a good debate. I got one pushback. I think with Burrow, he automatically gets put in top 3, top 4 talks when in the past 3 years, Jalen Hurts has more Super Bowl appearances than he has playoff appearances. So I know a lot of the conversation is, well, the passing yards. He doesn't have 4,000 passing yards this past season. He doesn't have 3K passing yards. He even had 18 passing touchdowns. But if you look at a lot of the Eagles games, the Steelers game is a great example. Hurts had 290 passing yards. In the fourth quarter, they ran the clock out for 10 straight minutes to help out the defense. And that's why he hasn't had such gaudy numbers, because he's such a great threat in the run game and he plays complementary football to win. And so I look at a guy that in the biggest moments, I saw him go toe-to-toe with Mahomes twice. We can argue the first one. The second one, he completely outplayed him. I've seen him in the past 2 seasons beat Mahomes, beat Stafford, beat Burrow, beat Allen, beat Lamar. All these guys, he's done it. So whatever you need him to do, he will do it. And then the argument that gets me the most upset is that he wouldn't be nothing without Saquon. When I've seen this guy with Miles Sanders as his running back. Miles Sanders.
Shout out to Booby, bro.
And no running game in the Super Bowl. No. Go toe-to-toe. Drop 30-plus points. Do something that only Joe Montana and he did 35-plus points in multiple Super Bowls. I feel like big game. Hurts is that guy. And he does what he got to do to win.
So you think that Jalen Hurts can put up the numbers Joe Burrow can put up, but Joe Burrow can't win like Jalen Hurts can win?
I don't think Joe Burrow can win like that, because we saw the GOAT and Tom Brady say, look, you can pass for 40-something touchdowns, but if you're not helping out the defense like that, now am I going to say Burrow isn't helping out the defense? Look, we don't know that. What I do know is I was on Spot Track, and I saw on Spot Track that Joe Burrow is making $45 million this year. And Jalen Hurts is making $21 million. I saw Jalen Hurts' agent, Nicole Lynn, say, Jalen Hurts' biggest thing was don't F up the team when getting my massive contract. And so I look at that and I say, part of this Eagles team being so good is because Jalen Hurts and Howie Roseman, they've been able to structure his contract to where he isn't a huge cap hit. You can get a guy in Zach Bond, in Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith not have the contract issues that they have. And what Hurts does, could he go for 4,000 passing yards? Yeah, but is the team going to go out here and, win 14 games multiple times, get to the Super Bowl multiple times? I don't know that. So if you're a fan of a team, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, are you picking 40 touchdowns and gaudy stats and missing the playoffs because you couldn't beat the Patriots week 1 and you're known for slow starts in the season? Or would you like a guy that consistently wins, consistently produces, and when his number is called upon, he answers?
Quick question. I think what you're saying makes sense.
There's some basis behind it.
Most of it has nothing to do with football. I don't understand what is the best way to help a defense? To me, if I was a defensive player, I want my offense to score points. So I could pin my ears back. I could rush the passer. I know they're not going to have to run if we're up by 14 points. Joe Burrow leads efficient offenses. Night in and night out, he leads great offenses. The Eagles control the clock better, and part of that is due to Jalen Hurts. I think a big part of that, because you're right, even when they had Miles Sanders, they were still a good run game. Last year, having Saquon Barkley takes that to a millionth level. So what on the field? Because scoring points, Joe Burrow has shown that offense can do it. And the contract, you guys have the best front office in the NFL. You have one of the best, maybe the best front office in all of sports. The way Howie Roseman is able to manipulate deals to keep cap hits down, and still while you're giving out contracts, making moves in free agency and in trades, you have the best front office in the NFL, and the Bengals have one of the worst, right? Like Trey Hendrickson is still unsigned. They had to go the last minute for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're not a good front office. Those are out of Joe Burrow's control. There's nothing he can do. So what on the field does Hurts do better than? We could just say Burrow. We could open up to Allen Lamar if you want. But since we're talking about Burrow, we could just say Burrow.
We talk about Burrow as a runner. It's clear, not even close.
For sure.
There we go. There.
Great rusher.
What Burrow got, he's better in terms of not taking sacks because Hurts,
maybe the best in the
his
league.
issue is he will hold on to the ball too long.
Holds on the ball longer.
And a lot of the issue is he's been told, all right, don't turn over the ball. Like Allen and all these guys, don't turn over the ball. But 2023 was the year that Hurts turned over the ball way too much. He's been able to already minimize that, but he got to improve on not getting sacked. I'll give Joe Burrow that. If he had an offensive line like the Eagles, he wouldn't get sacked like that. And Burrow is a better processor. Like, he just can go through his checks, 1 through 4 or whatever. He's like that. Better deep ball is Jalen Hurts. It's Jalen Hurts.
Is it? Do the numbers say that?
I wouldn't. If it did, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that deep ball is enlarged has been due to the receivers that you have.
They both have elite receivers.
Yeah.
So it cancels out.
Jalen Hurts has A.J. Brown. Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase. But there's a reason why somebody like Patrick Mahomes, his efficiency on deep balls has lowered throughout the past couple of years because he just doesn't have a threat like that down the field that he can consistently throw to. And I think if you want to give Jalen Hurts deep ball, I think that I disagree with it, but I think that's just one facet of it. Overall, I think Joe Burrow has better pocket presence. He's a more accurate quarterback. He's better post-snap. And I think that every throw Jalen Hurts can make on the field, Joe Burrow can make on the field. I think he has more arm talent. He has the ability to make more throws in more creative ways. And I think rushing the ball, Jalen Hurts is a better runner. But I think out of structure play, I would still lean Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow's able to break out the pocket better. I think he's able to roll out and hit players down the field better than Jalen Hurts. So I just think at the quarterback position, Joe Burrow is better than Jalen Hurts. And I think a lot of things you mentioned are due to team construct. I think the Bengals front office is not a good front office. The way that they structured Burrow's deals is different than Hurts because Howie Roseman is pushing money down the line like the Saints did with Drew Brees. So Jalen Hurts is getting a big contract. They're just pushing it into basically salary bonuses so that they don't have to pay it out right now and it doesn't show up in a cap hit right now. And that's more so on the genius of the front office. But I don't think that can be held against Joe Burrow in this conversation.
I don't hate the argument. Why? Because it's unique. Let's just throw that out there. I say that where there's some truth to that. You have $25 million to play around in the margins. That makes sense. That's very beneficial to what the Eagles have been able to do, especially this past season. I also will say the technician that Howie is in the draft as well. You get Quinyon Mitchell, you get Cooper DeJean. The years before that draft, you get Nolan Smith. You've been able to hit on guys that, or you've been able to quote unquote, I'll say luck into in terms of your draft position where Jalen Carter falls to you guys a little bit later in the back end of the top 10. Quinyon Mitchell dropping into the 20s, that surprised me. Quinyon, to me, was my favorite corner in the draft. I thought he'd go sooner. And Cooper DeJean being a second-round pick, I don't think anybody saw that. I thought Cooper seemed like he was a lock first-round pick. You guys definitely... Nolan Smith dropping to what was it, the damn near last pick of the first round. You guys have been able to really hit on some draft picks. But that money makes sense. Those moves that you can make around the margins to make your team better, you can go and get a Saquon Barkley. We see the Dallas Cowboys miss out on Derrick Henry because they fucked around with their contracts too much. Yes, that's another bad GM. I'll give you that. But that does matter in this conversation. I think when you look at Jalen Hurts' best passing moments, what MJ is saying, there's truth behind it. It's in the biggest games, and it's when he's being tested the most in terms of teams saying, we're selling out on the run. We're forcing you to beat us as a passer because we simply don't think that you're good enough to do so. Game 1, they lost. They didn't lose because of Jalen Hurts. We all know that. Shout out to the Chiefs. They executed on 100% of their opportunities. They did not lose that game because Jalen Hurts was an inefficient passer. It was one of the best passing performances we've seen from Jalen Hurts. And I would argue it was better than this most recent Super Bowl.
Well, it was this one. He was just managing the game.
He was managing, and even still, there was moments where he just put it on a dime. When you need him the most, when you call his number, he's going to answer.
So does that put you in the top
I'm not
two?
going to say that,
Here's
no.
the thing,
But what I'm saying is, if you were to put yourself in that mindset, I can hear the argument.
Because here's the thing with Jalen Hurts, and I think Joe Burrow's a better quarterback. I basically understand your arguments for each one. He's better than Joe Burrow because of postseason success, and he has Super Bowl. He's better than Lamar Jackson because he's better in the playoffs, and he's better than Josh Allen because he has a Super Bowl. Because Jalen Hurts is not better than Josh Allen in the regular season or in the postseason. In the postseason, Josh Allen is clearly statistically better than him. And this is where what you said made me think of this thought.
Mm-hmm.
They are telling Jalen Hurts that they don't think that he can beat them. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think that if you're playing the Eagles, and this is not a knock on Jalen Hurts, this is a testament to the Eagles, your best way to beat them is by forcing them to throw the ball. That is just the bottom line. If you don't stack the box and put 7 to 8 defenders constantly, that offensive line is going to dominate the game. And that creates one-on-ones for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside. And those guys against second corners or any corner in the league, they're going to win those matchups consistently. So I think that the difficulty of defenses that Jalen Hurts faces is not at the same level of Joe Burrow. His offensive line is going to protect him better than Burrow's offensive line is going to protect Burrow. His receivers are getting bracketed down the field because they don't have to worry about a dominant defensive line. Imagine if Joe Burrow had an elite running game with him and you had to play one-on-one with Jabbar Chase and T. Higgins. Joe Burrow was able to make the Super Bowl with teams constantly bracketing them and him still creating explosive plays down the field. So I don't think it's a knock on Jalen Hurts and his passing. I think it's that the only way we're going to beat the Eagles is if we first stop their running game, because the only way we can actually get this team to maybe fold a little bit is if we put them into obvious passing down situations and they're playing from behind. But because they have such a dominant team, they almost never play from behind. So I think that's the difference, because Jalen Hurts, statistically, EPA per play wise, he was 25th against zone coverage. But when you're playing a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, you're not seeing those coverages as much. And he wasn't that great against too high coverages either. And when you're playing a system like that, you're not going to see those defenses as often because of how much they have to allocate to the box. So I think that they have different degree of difficulties offensively. And I think there's no knocking Hurts for his performances. He's been a big game performer, and I think that is a title that he has earned. But at the same time, it's done a little bit differently than how these other quarterbacks have to move their offenses down the field.
I think it's multiple layers to it, because I agree that if you're Steve Spagnuolo, your focus should be, I gotta stop the run game. Like, that's the only hope you do have.
It's true.
The issue that I have, a lot of people from Philly have, is you can't say, all right, we don't trust the Eagles when they pass, when it's all on Jalen Hurts, we don't trust. And then when he does it, oh, well, you're supposed to do that. Well, how can you like, what's the point of even having the game
if you do,
if you can't even, like,
fact.
so like, that's like our main thing. And I get like the Burrow debate. My thing with him is he extremely talented? Yes. Is there a reason why he was the number 1 overall pick? Yes. All-time great season at LSU. He has helped revive the Bengals. Definitely. I mean, it's the reason why the offensive lineman was like, he's like our everything, our Lord and Savior. I'm like, it's the reason why I said that.
The fact that the Bengals are relevant is testament to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it's
literally,
100%.
Literally.
I mean, Brian Flores was literally going to get paid $100K a game to get Joe Burrow, whatever. So I understand that. I just feel like we jumped the gun in terms of what somebody has actually produced. You're talking about out of 9 quarterbacks since 1994 have a Super Bowl MVP and an All-Pro. And Jalen Hurts is one of those guys. Talking about Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, like Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning. Like, these are all-time Pantheon greats. Am I saying Hurts is that right now? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, when we even get past the Allens, the Jacksons, the Burrows, and then we talk about the Herberts and the Goffs, especially Jared Goff.
That kills
Because
me.
he has had
That kills
Jared
me.
Goff's
that
not-
was a terrible.
No, it was a
he always
terrible
folds.
time in
Terrible.
football.
That
Terrible
was a
time in
terrible
football.
playoff
Horrible.
game.
Horrible.
And the QB wins not stat crowd. That win or that loss rather is a reflection of Jared Goff in that moment not living up to the bill. So the whole conversation, yes, like, do I believe Hurts is top 3, top 2? I trust him, with everything I got in the game for my life for sure. But it gets disrespectful when it's guys that are putting up gaudy stats, haven't won a playoff game, and they're anointed because in the regular season they pass better. So that's our only thing.
So I think that's different than Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow's been to AFC Championship and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like,
especially
in the biggest
when
moments,
he's had help, and he's played at a high level in those moments as well. I think the loss thing that you mentioned with its reflection on Jared Goff, I agree. But I also think that there are wins that are not a true reflection of a quarterback. Like Jalen Hurts against the Rams. I thought he had a poor game, and the defense was the unit that got the stop to win the football game. And by your criteria, you think that Matthew Stafford is also better than Joe Burrow, correct?
I think right now, given my criteria, he got Super Bowl. He has more longevity. He's been healthier. I think that's never knock on Joe Burrow. He hasn't been healthy. It's a reason why he hasn't made the playoffs every single year, because of his health. That's got to be taken into account. So, yeah.
I'll tell you this. There's a reason why he listed all those names, and Matthew Stafford was not mentioned. He's a smart guy.
Because Matthew
There's
Stafford...
only one guy out of the four that we mentioned in Burrow, Allen, Lamar, and Mahomes that can hang with them.
So where's Matt Stafford in your conversation then? Because then he has to be Jalen Hurts. He has to be over Jalen Hurts.
Over?
Yes, because he has a Super Bowl.
He doesn't have the All-Pro. He doesn't have the MVP.
Don't have the All-Pro.
He doesn't have the Super Bowl MVP. He
don't
doesn't
think-
have to be
I don't
over
think
him.
that-
He's also in three appearances against Jalen Hurts. I know y'all don't like the head-to-head, but beating somebody 3 times and them not winning 1 time has got to account for something.
Here's where I'll push back on that. Matthew Stafford, accolades wise, sure. I'm not really going off of accolades. I'm going off of
That's what he
has
was
happened.
using.
I understand, but did Jalen Hurts in his Super Bowl MVP year play better than Matthew Stafford in his Super Bowl game? Because in 2021, I think Matthew Stafford performed better than Jalen Hurts just did against the Chiefs this go around.
You're saying Matthew's run versus Hurts' run.
Yes, Matthew's run versus
Because
Hurts
I was
is
going to
fun.
say Super Bowl game.
in the playoffs.
Super Bowl game.
Well, just the Super Bowl game, I
if
think
you
Matthew
go
Stafford
Super Bowl,
was better.
no.
It was.
No.
You're saying
But who
this
won the
past
MVP?
year?
Yes.
He
this
won
past
MVP.
year.
It was Cooper Kupp.
I know.
And if I'm being honest,
And it
Matthew
could have been
Stafford,
Aaron Donald.
It
damn
could have
near.
easily been
Could have
Aaron
been Aaron
Donald.
Donald.
There were
Jalen
two
Hurts-
players
Jalen Hurts
before
was
him.
really good. This
I
past
think
game.
that
He
this
wasn't as good
past,
as the
I think that
first,
this
but
past
it was-
Super Bowl, the most valuable player was awarded to Jalen Hurts because the defense collectively was the most valuable unit in the game, and they couldn't single out one player. But I think that Josh Sweat would have been a very deserving Super Bowl MVP as well.
Jalen
Like,
also played perfect.
But he played really well. I'm not saying he didn't, but they were blowing them out due to like 2 defensive touchdowns in that game. So I look at that and I say the defense was the most valuable performer in the Super Bowl this past year.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
they
what I view.
dominated them, so it kind of skews things. I have a question for you, because I'm sure you get this all the time. But I feel like the easiest argument against this is giving this year for the Eagles. Don't you think these quarterbacks could have done the same thing? Don't you think if Lamar, Josh, Stafford, Burrow, however long this list goes, because I think they've all had pieces of what the Eagles have. They've all had times where they've either had an elite defense, an elite run game, an elite receiver, elite offensive line.
They just haven't had it at the same time like the
none of
Eagles.
them have ever had it at the same time exactly. So if those
Lamar.
quarterbacks all, but he never had elite receivers. He never had both an elite
Zay
receiver
Flowers
and
a
elite.
Pro Bowler.
It's a
Mark
pro
Andrews
bowl
still
shit.
Mark Andrews.
Mark
and he
Andrews
had
fell
Derrick
off.
Henry
Yes.
who rushed for almost 2
We're talking about AJ fucking Brown.
They also had an amazing defense and
doesn't
they had an
compare.
amazing offensive line.
It doesn't. This past year doesn't compare. It doesn't.
No,
It doesn't.
I think
They-
again, Drew.
I'm
Lamar
not
said
saying that
some
the
of
team
these.
was the Eagles. I'm not saying their team was the Eagles. I'm
They've-
saying
yes,
and
yes.
and
They've had
talking
some of
about
these.
having everything.
They've had some of it.
He basically has everything.
They've had some
Lamar
of it.
Jackson has had some of the things, not everything, but
got enough.
he's had
It
enough.
Two years
doesn't
ago
match
when the
Eagles.
defense was-
it doesn't match the Eagles, but he had enough.
2 years
That's
ago,
what I'm
I don't
saying.
dis-
That's
I don't
all I'm
disagree.
saying.
I'm not saying Lamar has not gotten. I 100% with
Thank
you.
you.
Lamar has had
Thank you.
enough. For
That's
sure.
what I'm saying.
But I'm saying like this past year, right? 2 years ago when the Ravens defense won the best we've ever seen.
Offense was not that good.
No, like they didn't
comparatively
have
to this
Derrick
year.
Henry yet.
I agree.
Mark Andrews has fallen off. Like he's been a touchdown guy, but he is outside the red zone, not someone you can rely on.
And Zay Flowers was hurt this past
Shout out
year
to Pro
in
Bowl.
the playoffs.
I mean, AJ Brown's a top 3 receiver in the league. Zay's like 20th at best.
I'm not
Zay's
comparing
not
the
better
Eagles to
than
the
Devontae.
Ravens.
Zay's not better than Devontae.
I'm not here comparing the Ravens to the Eagles. What you drew up was having everything.
Yeah.
Lamar
He's still right on that.
said
though.
kind of
That's a
has
right-
everything.
No, that's a right.
Now
What he said is the
this
right
is,
statement.
I mean, this is the closest he has gotten. The offensive line, it's good, not as good as the Eagles.
The Ravens' offensive line is great.
It is.
not
The
as good as
Eagles
the
is
Eagles.
like the best in the league. Good though.
But like
course,
your
it's
point
still
is
great.
like
Yeah, yeah.
the
His point
argument that
was he has
Alright,
the
They have
hypothetical-
he has
and yeah.
literally every Lamar. Again, I'm not disagreeing. Lamar has 70% of it.
70.
He has 70, but not in 1 year has he had the best offensive line in the sport, the best running back in the sport, a top 3 receiver, a top 15
This
receiver,
is
and the
right.
best defense
This
in the
is
sport.
right. This is
That's
right.
what Jalen Hurts
That's
just
what he's
had.
been saying. No, that's what he's been saying.
I heard has everything. I look at the Ravens.
They don't have
kind
everything.
of
No,
have
they're
everything.
fucking amazing. They're a
Their
top 3
receiving
team in the
core
league.
is
I'm
one
not-
of the bottom barrel ones.
I'm
in the
not
league.
doing this.
It's
I'm
towards
not
the
doing
bottom.
No,
this.
it's not.
Yes, it is. It's towards the bottom.
Rashad
It's not
Bateman
great.
is underrated, and Zay Flowers just made the Pro
Dude,
Bowl.
it's
The
average
Pro
at
Bowl
best.
shit's nuts, Drew.
Why?
Zay Flowers is what the 20th best receiver in the
He
league.
is, but he's still a
It's average
really
at
good
best.
receiver.
It's 15th. It's
Rashad
probably
Bateman
15th.
is really good and was one of the most efficient
It's-
wide
Drew,
receivers in
it's
football
average
last
at
year.
best. It's average at best. That's what it is.
But like Peyton Manning is a clear example that he's had great offensive lines, Marvin Harrison, phenomenal teams.
He didn't have to use
But then come to playoffs,
For sure.
he ain't
He's
get it
fall-
done.
yeah.
So what you're saying is that
our
you can have
argument-
everything and not get it
Yeah,
done.
like to a lesser degree, Anthony Richardson. The Colts
God.
got a squad, bro.
Yeah.
And he hasn't delivered at all. Josh
He's saying
Down,
on a lesser degree.
so-
I get the
no,
point.
no, no,
I
no.
get the
saying, like,
sentiment.
even I'm sorry, I gotta do this. Tua.
Again, here we go.
Like,
This is two
like
shots. in
Tua,
three.
they got a great offensive. They got a great squad, and then it gets cold, and it's like Tua, not
There's
the
not
same
a lot
guy.
of teams that
So,
got the line and
Jalen
we're
Hurts in the
saying-
snow.
all
Don't
we're
make me
saying
do
is-
it. All right.
and you've been on my side. All I've
Exactly.
been saying is like
He got yerked up. That's what I'm saying.
The whole hypothetical thing. We're not really buying that because like you still got to go out there and do it.
For sure.
I'm not
You
buying
still
into
have-
hypotheticals.
Jared Goff had everything with the Rams. Fell short.
Yeah.
Jared
Yeah.
Goff had almost
But
everything with the Lions.
we're not
I'll give him the
comparing-
benefit of the doubt he got injured.
We're not comparing Jared Goff here. It's like, you know what I mean? We're
No,
comparing
but I'm
high
saying
You
level
want to
guys.
compare like Lamar? I
I think
feel like
Hurts is,
we don't know. I really don't know what Lamar. Somebody can like think, but do I know that Lamar is gonna win? You can have a good educated guess.
What
but
game doesn't
we
Lamar
also
win
have-
last year for you?
I think the Rams game.
Facts.
But
That's
Jalen
the
Hurts
one.
didn't
Rams
play great
game.
against
Exactly.
He got sacked all the time.
Exactly. That's
Like,
a
he didn't
fact.
have a great
but
game.
The only
but how
difference,
do we
though,
know
the
that
only
Lamar
difference
would have played
was
well?
the reason why the Eagles won that game is because Jalen Hurts did not turn over the ball.
Mhm.
I think in that
Against the
game
Rams?
against the Rams,
He just
they
got
did not,
sacked.
he
9
not turned over the
times.
ball. He had like the whole
He had a shit
the
ton of
whole
sacks.
like safety, but like in terms of like
Then he
a
cost them
fumble,
points. That's
but like, in terms of, like a
matters.
fumble, like a pick.
But he got
like
sacked
Kyron Williams
so
fumbling the ball
many times.
He
that
Yeah,
game.
and that was offensive
perked
lines
up and
terrible
injured.
game.
Sure.
The offensive
sure.
line had a terrible game, but the difference with Hurts is for the most part, he has 20 touchdowns, to like 3 turnovers
Yeah,
in
he's
the
great
playoffs.
at
They
I
won
think
that
that,
game
like,
because the defense held
Yeah,
Matthew
no, like
Stafford.
the
That's
defense,
why.
like and defense is Saquon. They were the reasons why we won that game. But for the most part, you're not gonna have a game where Hurts turns over the ball, loses it for you. Like it's not gonna be that.
So look, I think your biggest argument against Lamar Jackson is that Lamar Jackson had bad playoff moments. I think that's the biggest argument. And what you're saying is that even if Lamar has all this perfectness around him, he could still lose. Like he's been losing and underperforming. I think that argument falls short more so for Josh Allen and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think with Josh Allen, my issue with him is that play. I mean that play, like the play to win the game. I keep going back to that last drive against the Chiefs to not even tie it up.
Not
Like,
even
what
got
are we
field goal
talking
position,
about?
Not even range.
Don't
Like,
even
what-
get
what are
into
we
field
talking
goal.
about?
You're Josh Allen.
Yeah. Get 30 yards.
That's
Like,
crazy.
I think Joe Burrow gets that.
I
think Joe Burrow
Yo,
gets that.
that's a good
Joe Burrow
take.
didn't
Joe-
get that though.
Huh?
When?
in the 2022 AFC Championship.
But unlike Allen,
But he didn't have last
though.
licks.
He did.
No, the Chiefs kicked a game-winning field goal.
In the 2022 AFC Championship?
Yes. The
Joe
Chiefs
Burrow-
walked off on a field goal.
Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow had the ball last with a chance to go down the field
In
and
the
score
fourth.
But it was
points.
tied, right?
And he got sacked.
But they were not losing.
They were tied.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
that's what you're
saying.
saying.
So
In the
Joe,
fourth
so
quarter,
Joe
I think
Burrow,
you're saying,
so
not
Joe,
overtime,
so
right?
Joe Burrow had the chance to go down the field and win the game, and they went 3 and out, and they punted the ball. That's what I'm saying. I'm just adding context to it.
Yeah, for sure. I just think like with Allen, even against like my Eagles, it was 2023 Eagles Bills. If you look at that game, the Bills had the ball first time in overtime. They marched down the field. What happens? I don't know what happened with Josh Allen, Gabe Davis. The ball goes this way. Gabe Davis got a post route going that way. Hey, look, I don't know if that's on Gabe Davis or Josh Allen, but those little plays, do I think Jalen Hurts is making that? No, I don't.
Because who walked off?
Who walked it off? Jason Kelsey, great block. Hurts rushing for a touchdown. So, like, it's those little plays that Josh Allen got to overcome. I think he got a better argument than Lamar, for sure.
But I think that you have more room for error when you're having so many plays a game at that volume. Like Josh
That's
Allen, the ball is in his hand. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. In a playoff setting, same thing with Mahomes, about 45 to 50 times. They're touching the ball, and they're either attempting it or they're part of the play.
I don't know. Josh against the Ravens was kind of in cruise control.
This year, Josh Allen was the most game manager he's been in his career.
for sure.
Because
playoffs,
they
yeah.
lost Stephon Diggs, and they had to become more of a complete offense, and they leaned into the run game. And
I'm not holding it against
No,
him.
I know,
I
but
will.
I'm saying for like if we just look at the attempts per game, passing wise, and the everything, the touches that these quarterbacks have had per game, Jalen Hurts might have maybe 15 to 20 less touches, which means there's less room for error on those. If you have more volume snaps, like if you take more shots, you're also likely to miss more shots.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think even with Josh Allen, Joe Brady has done a great job of taking the ball out of his hands a little bit. Not, all right, yeah, you're still Superman. You're still that guy.
James Cook led the league in touchdowns.
But yeah, but you ain't got to touch
Yeah.
the ball every single time. So, difference from Ken Dorsey, who just wasn't utilizing James Cook in the right way. So, and we saw the difference with Ken Dorsey and Joe Brady. Now you see Josh Allen's turnovers go, to the single digits, and then he wins MVP. So, I think there's certain guys that, they don't get the same narrative of, we're taking the ball out of your hands a little bit. Even Jim Harbaugh, he could have got Malik Neighbors. He gets Joe Alt because he's focused on the run game. He takes the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands a little bit. And then now you're seeing him have minimal turnovers, and then up to him in the playoff game. But you saw that Jim Harbaugh formula, like